What is up, ladies and gents? It's your boy Lou Streets, and I am back with another video. And in this video, I'm actually going to talk about a phone conversation that me and Tom Brady just had for about 45 minutes. We just had it recently, and he brought some really interesting stuff to my attention that never crossed my mind before, right? So a lot of people try to label Tom as a negative creator when it comes to Mortal Kombat 11 and Mortal Kombat 1, and he broke down his perspective for me. And it really caught me off guard because he said some stuff that's never crossed my mind before. However, the conversation wasn't planned and it's fresh in my head. So I want to try not to misremember what he said or misrepresent his words, right? I did tell him I was going to make the video, but bear with me. I might go a little bit slowly because I want to try to remember what he said as accurately as possible. So let's go ahead and get started. So as you guys know, recently I've been playing Mortal Kombat 11 again, and I've kind of had the inspiration or excitement to go through and play all the characters because, as I've always said, Mortal Kombat 11 is the better game, right? And so Tom is aware of that because he's seen some of my videos, and so he was giving me his perspective on why Mortal Kombat 11, I don't want to say he said it's a bad game. He said it had the potential and it was right there to be a great game. It had all the foundational pieces, but they didn't get expanded upon, and his reasoning for this actually surprised me. So essentially he talked about when the game first launched, we were locked into a two variation system, right? And then over time, the game was supposed to develop and give us more and more, but he's pretty much saying that they left empty promises on the table. What he meant by this is with the two variation system, that was the initial launch, right? But things were supposed to be tweaked and patched that didn't necessarily get addressed for a long time. One of those things being the breakaway system, and when they did address that, it was kind of half-hearted because it wasn't universal to every character without a slot being involved. And the slots are the really most important part of this because this is kind of the foundation of what he meant about the game not being touched in the way that it should have. So the first example that I want to give when it comes to the slot stuff, we're going to start with Raiden, because Raiden is known for using Storm Cell and Sparkport. Sparkport costs 2 bars, which is funny because Raiden has always had teleport since Mortal Kombat 1. So why he requires an actual slot to teleport when he's the lightning god is kind of or thunder god, I'm sorry. When he's the thunder god is kind of insane, right? The second example would be Melina. She doesn't have high side, low side, and air side all in her base kit. They actually require slots. So what Tom was saying is that as a Liu Kang main, I really enjoy Mortal Kombat 11 because my main character has the main things that I need as far as like the slots that I want to use versus my base moves. What he was saying is that when it comes to the balancing of the game, it's not necessarily that the tier list is made for the characters to be where they are. What he was saying is that the development team put moves in the game with slots. They were supposed to come back and tweak them and balance them, and they never did. So that in itself dictated what characters had certain things versus what ones didn't. For example, he was saying how a lot of Jackie stuff requires 1 slot, so that makes her OP with all her mobility, versus you have somebody like Raiden where you pretty much have to use Sparkport and Storm Cell, otherwise Raiden's not that playable because his other launchers require 2 bars and they're not that great. Now the reason it caught me off guard when he said this is because as somebody who started making content in 2018, I'm playing the game based off the product that I see and what I enjoy about playing the game. What Tom's perspective was on the phone, he was more so talking about the intent versus the development timeline and how those things kind of play out in the game itself. So for instance, let's use Sub-Zero's ground ice move. Here he's saying that like moves like that got banned, like the cool stuff that he wanted to do that you could play in customs, that got banned in ranked. So now you can't necessarily use that for like fun strategy, but that's not an intentional move. That's a lazy move to ban it because that's not really taking the time to develop. And pretty much the excuse was COVID stopped the development team from really doing things that they wanted to do. But at the same time, SL5 was still having development. Tekken 7 was still having development. What Mortal Kombat 11 did was gave us Aftermath. So now they're making money, but they're not necessarily developing anything because these things were already in the works. When he broke this down for me, I thought it was kind of crazy because I was like, I never looked at it that way. So pretty much what he said was that there could have been more development to follow up with Aftermath and things of that nature as far as how the game is supposed to be tweaked, balanced in regards to breakaway, universal breakaway moves not being added for all characters, because as I said, some breakaway moves are in base kits like Sonya's F4, while Liu Kang, it requires a slot with command grab, but I use that anyway, so that's universally there, versus another character that might have an armor break move in their slot, but you don't want to use that in your regular combos or regular setups, so now you just don't get access to an armor breaking move. When he said this, I was like, you know what? That makes a ton of sense. And then the second thing was that, so they sell us Aftermath. Aftermath does decent. They sell 15 million copies. So now Mortal Kombat 11 has made a ton of money off of us being excited, but that's because Tom is saying that they were always selling the idea of hope. Hey, we're gonna tweak this, we're gonna balance this, we're gonna adjust that. But those things never came. So it comes to a crossroads where it's like, okay, we've sold Aftermath, we've sold 15 million copies, we can tweak some things and see if that'll make more people come to the game, or we can take the money that we've made so far, call it a wrap on this game, stop the communication on this game, stop the tweaking on this game, and just make our next one, which is how we got to Mortal Kombat 1. I asked Tom, is that what you really think that happened? So what he essentially said, that the reason he thought that this was on purpose is because if you look at Mortal Kombat X, I believe that Mortal Kombat X had a 3 variation system, right? So in Mortal Kombat 11, this is supposed to be an expansion of that 3 variation system, but instead we get customs where we can have fun. But customs was in casual from day one. Now you guys remember, I made a video saying that customs should be in ranked, but that's just me as a content creator enjoying the game. What Tom was essentially saying is that, hey, this is just an expansion of Mortal Kombat X. Now you guys are saying that we're gonna have this custom variation stuff where we can have a ton of fun, make our own versions of the characters based on the custom system. However, you're banning certain moves and making certain moves take 2 slots, and you're not coming back and balancing things and retweaking it. And then when Mortal Kombat Ultimate comes out, Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate, a large selling point of Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate was, hey, you guys get customs in rank. But what Tom is saying is that essentially you just took casual mode and put it into rank. So you didn't really give us any new expansion on the custom variation system. You just unlocked it because it was already there, which isn't really giving us something new. And when he said that, I was like, okay, that makes some level of sense, but I was so excited about customs that it wasn't a big deal to me. Plus, I'm not the type of person that has at that time when I was making content 2018, 2019, 2020, I didn't have the mind frame of how do things work behind the curtains in regards to like a developmental timeline on a game coming out, you know what I'm saying? So now we fast forward that to Mortal Kombat 1. So his gripe with that is that, okay, you had Mortal Kombat X, we had the 3 variation system. We go to Mortal Kombat 11, we now have the custom variation system. You made it sound like it was a selling point, but in reality, it was there since day one, so you just unlocked it in rank, so you really didn't give us nothing new. And then you stopped the communication for that game because you made all this money off Aftermath and blah, 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 blah. So then he says, okay, so now you've abandoned Mortal Kombat 11. Mortal Kombat 11 is done well, but essentially you abandoned it because you didn't tweak the things that you said you would tweak. You were just selling hope the entire time, which worked well for everybody, which is why you sold 15 million copies. So now his point was, if you're going to Mortal Kombat 1, we have the variation system in Mortal Kombat X, which is a 3 variation system. We have the Mortal Kombat 11 custom variation system that you didn't take the time to balance out to the extent that you said you would, which dictated the tier list, but not because that was the intention of the tier list being that way. It was more or less laziness that you didn't tweak the custom variation system. So now when it comes to Mortal Kombat 1, you introduced this cameo system, but why would you introduce that when you didn't fully flesh out the Mortal Kombat 11 custom variation system? So now this is where things get tricky, because Tom was implying that this is intentional. Like, it's almost lazy because you're cash grabbing, because if you didn't fully flesh out your last system, why would you make a new one? And this becomes a problem. And instead, when you do make your new system, rather than making it and making it great at launch, you give us a very buggy launch to Mortal Kombat 1. You bring out Chaos Reigns, you sell Chaos Reigns for $40 while tweaking things in the cameo system that should have been done day one, and then you sell us Chaos Reigns and it does poorly. So then Combat Pack 3 gets canceled, that news starts to circulate, and now you're abandoning this game too. So he's essentially saying that this is a pattern of you promise something, you under-deliver, but you oversell. So it's like, we can't get your promises and your changes without buying something new from you, but then you abandon that, and you've done that 2 games in a row. Now, from my perspective, I didn't see it like that for Mortal Kombat 11. But when he broke down the timeline of how it worked as far as what was supposed to be balanced and tweaked and then it didn't, and how it dictated the tier list, and then you moved to Mortal Kombat 1, and now we had that same issue because you didn't balance and tweak things until you sold us Chaos Reigns with it, it started to make a lot of sense. So then he went into the context of who should be held accountable for this, because this has happened back-to-back games, and he gave me some excellent examples that I didn't think about. So the example that he gave me was when SF5 was in a bad state, they were looking to pretty much move their head out of the way, saying, hey, if we don't get something that can sell and do better, you're gone. The same thing with Harada with Tekken Tag. Tekken Tag didn't do well. They needed to go back to the drawing board about how they were going to reintroduce Tekken, and they even put out Tekken Revolution while trying to figure that out and taking Tekken back to a one-on-one style game. So what, I want to say this properly because I don't want to misrepresent Tom, but what he was saying is that, okay, with 2 games in a row being abandoned, and Mortal Kombat 1 not selling well. Yeah, it sold 3 to 4 million copies, but in reality, compared to what they did their previous game and what they were looking to do, this didn't sell well, and now it's being abandoned in year 2 because the publisher pulled the rug from under their feet as far as the NRS team. So he's saying somebody should potentially be held accountable. And I asked him, I was like, when you say somebody, in regards, do you mean WB or NRS? He said, I think NRS should be held accountable. I was like, well, what does that look like? He was like, Ed Boon should be on the hot seat. And I was like, when you say Ed Boon should be on the hot seat, does that mean that Ed Boon should be removed? Like what does that look like? And he didn't want to say remove because I don't think he was advocating for anybody to like lose their spot or their role. He's just saying that on the next game, they really need to deliver, and that leniency is probably very tight right now because they keep making these new systems and they're not completing them. And his examples were Mortal Kombat X had the 3 variation system, did well. Mortal Kombat 11 had the custom variation system, then got abandoned because it didn't get fully fleshed out and finished, which dictated the tier list. And now we have the cameo system with Combat Pack 3 being canceled, things being adjusted within the cameo system, which wasn't a great idea in the first place. So now you're abandoning 2 projects in a row. So he was essentially saying you can't keep having a scenario where you're promising us something, we're buying things based off hope, which is what we did in Mortal Kombat 11, even if it was unbeknownst to us, and then we're doing the same thing in Mortal Kombat 1 and you're abandoning projects. He was like, if that continues to happen, somebody has to be held accountable. Now, I don't think that I would want to see Ed Boon gone, because I'm like I'm just not an advocate for that, like in anybody like losing their job, especially like in this economy. Like nobody's like looking for that. However, the communication and the way that things are being promised and then not delivered upon, that can't keep going on. Because, and I said this myself, I remember saying Ed Boon talked about how big communication would be this time around with this game, right? But when Mortal Kombat 1 wasn't received well, I don't know if you guys remember, roughly around like, because you know, the first launch was nice. People were excited about the game. I was excited about the game. I think that was just like the fool's goal to something being new and shiny, and then you want to enjoy it. But as the game started kind of, as we got to live with the game, we started finding disappointing things, right? And so I was one of those people as well who like wanted to be excited, but I started finding more disappointing stuff. And it was like, okay, this doesn't feel so great. But the problem is whenever I say that, or Tom says that, or somebody like Mike Hollow says that, we get met with this this response that we're dunking on the game. And what Tom's point was that, you know, when we have these people who are toxic positive creators who just shield for the game, we end up in these scenarios where we're essentially being lied to. And once you think about it like that, it kind of does put it in perspective, because it's like, if you're saying you're gonna communicate, and there's gonna be a ton of communication, and then things don't get received so well, then you go radio silent. There was like a couple months where Ed Boon just went quiet. The community just went quiet. Even with the Combat Pack 3 news, when we were asking about that stuff, the community was just very quiet. Like we couldn't really get any confirmation. And that was a strange scenario, because now it's like you have people buying Chaos Reigns or being excited about the new characters coming out. But if we're not getting Combat Pack 3 and we're only in year 2, that's you essentially abandoning the community and not telling us the truth after promising us something. And now you're gonna probably do that for a 3rd game in a row if you even get the chance to, right? So it's kind of funny, because when he broke this down to me, I was thinking like, damn, that does make a ton of sense, because I didn't think about it in the context of like a development timeline. Like you have a budget, you have a timeline of saying, okay, this is what we're gonna do, this is the amount of money we have to do it with, this is when we're gonna do it by. So that in itself, because of the fact that MK11 got abandoned because you didn't finish the custom variation system being balanced in the way that it probably needed to be, with certain moves being banned from rank, why do you go make a whole new entire system with the cameo system versus just making a continuation of Mortal Kombat 11 in a different way? Now, the difference between me saying that is I'm thinking about it in gameplay. Tom is saying that this is a conscious decision. Like, we got all of our money from Mortal Kombat 11, so we're gonna abandon that game. Versus spending the money on development to make that better, we're gonna abandon that game. And if we're gonna give you guys something new to put your money into, it's gonna be a completely new game that's bare bones. And then when we actually tweak the game and give you the balance that we were supposed to give you with the Mortal Kombat 11 custom variation system, we're gonna just package that in Chaos Reigns so you give us even more money. Then we'll start balancing our bare bones game. When Tom broke that down to me, I was like, you know what? That sounds intentional. And he said that this is a conscious choice. I asked him multiple times because I didn't want to misrepresent him on camera. He said he 100% believes that's a conscious choice, probably not done in the best faith in general, and that somebody needs to be held accountable if this is going to be like their gameplay development practices, right? So I asked him who that someone was. He said NRS. Because he said when it came to Mortal Kombat 11, that was kind of WB and NRS with COVID. So he kind of like shared equal blame. He said when it comes to this game, he feels that this is just NRS in general and maybe even some of Ed Boon. So it's kind of surprising to say the least, because it changed my perspective some, because as you guys know, I don't really love Mortal Kombat 1 that much. I'm done bashing on it. Like, I don't want to bash it anymore. But at the same time, we do have toxic positive creators who kind of let them get away with this. And it's like, if they're not going to speak up and tell the truth, I won't say any names because I don't want to put anybody under the spotlight, but if they're not going to speak up and tell the truth because of like relationships and stuff like that, how do we get to a better product? So at this point, it pretty much feels like when it comes to the next game, it has to be Injustice 3. Even this is something else I was saying. I was saying, and I don't know if I asked my stream this or not, I asked the chat this not too long ago. Would you guys enjoy Mortal Kombat 1 if it was Injustice 3? So let's say it's the same exact game. It plays at the same exact pace in the same exact way. It has the sidekicks and all of that. However, it's just not a Mortal Kombat game. If that was Injustice 3 and it played this exact same way, would you guys think that this is a good game? And do you think it would sell better? Like the reality is the game bad, or is it bad for a Mortal Kombat 1 game? That's kind of a question I haven't really been able to come up with an answer to, because the game isn't terrible, but it's not insanely fun as far as replayability, right? And I don't know if that's just because of the fact that we don't have some of the bullshit from Mortal Kombat 11, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like Mortal Kombat to me. That's why I don't necessarily enjoy it. And I'm going to make another video talking about the style of fighting in regards to Mortal Kombat 11 versus Mortal Kombat 1, because I seen Max say something about that, and it actually goes a lot hand in hand like what I was saying. But when it comes to this particular game, as far as Mortal Kombat 1, do you guys, I'm going to leave you with these last few questions because I don't want this video to be too long. Do you guys think that this would be a great Mortal Kombat? Do you guys think that this would be a great game if it was Injustice 3? Same exact gameplay engine and all of that, but if it was Injustice 3, do you guys think it would be a great game? Which means that it's a great engine, it just doesn't feel like Mortal Kombat. And then secondly, do you guys feel lied to and abandoned in regards to the fact that this game is pretty much done in year 2? They haven't really like came out and confirmed it, but all signs are kind of pointing towards that direction. Like, if we don't get Combat Pack 3, what else is there to come? You know, like the cameo system was kind of doomed from the gate, so you can only tweak it and balance it so much, because I think people just don't overall enjoy it. So the two questions I have to leave you guys with, because I don't want this video to be too long, is, do you think that this game would be great if it was Injustice 3 with the same exact engine? So is it not a good game, or is it not a good Mortal Kombat game? And then secondly, do you guys feel robbed by NRS? Do you guys feel that we got left on the hook with Mortal Kombat 11, and now we're being left on the hook with Mortal Kombat 1 because they didn't finish the custom variation system and tweak things to the proper ability they were supposed to according to Tom? And then with this game, with Combat Pack 3 being canceled and no more DLC coming, do you feel lied to and robbed that we were sold hope twice? And the only difference is that Mortal Kombat 11 sold hope just a little bit better. So the 15 million copies that got sold were a representation of how people enjoyed the game, and it was close, versus Mortal Kombat 1, where it only sold 4 million copies, which is 11 million less. And that's just people feeling like lied to and bamboozled in the process. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Till next time, it's your boy Lou Streets. I am out. I hope this video is not too long. And once again, me and Tom had this conversation off the cuff. I didn't plan on making this video. I just thought his perspective was very interesting. So if I said anything wrong or misrepresented Tom in any way, I want to apologize for that now. I think I was pretty spot on with what he said, but it was a very fresh conversation. But his overall point is that toxic positive creators are hurting Mortal Kombat because we're not telling the truth, and then we're letting them get away with robbing us and giving us false hope and selling us false hope and not completing projects. So that was the main thing that he wanted to get out. That was what he got out in our conversation. And with that being said, I'm gonna wrap this one up. Till next time, it's your boy Lou Streets. I am out. Peace. I can already see the timer. This video is way longer than I want it to be. Till next time, I'm gone. Peace. Why do you do that so recklessly? Stop it. Doing that shit no more.